All right, thanks, Damon.
You're welcome.
Just let me know when we're ready and we'll get started.
Okay.
We are currently live.
Thank
Right.
you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Programs Committee of Finance New Orleans. We will start the meeting. And is there any old business?
None.
No, ma'am.
Thank you. New business, we have approval of the third program committee meeting minutes, and this will be the only approval item, correct?
Correct. And it was shared in the packet.
Okay, so since we don't have Ms. Morris on the line, we'll just ask for those to be. Go ahead.
She's here.
Oh, she's here.
I just got here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just came in.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Well, my apologies. All right. If we've had a chance to review the minutes, if not, I'll give you a couple of minutes, Angelika, if you want to read through those. And once we're ready,
I'm sorry about that. I tried calling on those.
You're breaking up right now.
Hear me?
You're in and out.
Hold on 1 second, Giselle.
Oh, I can hear you now. All right.
Mm-hmm. We can hear you.
So if you want to take a moment to review the minutes, I accept the motion for approval when you're ready, Angelika. Mr. Chase was on the programs committee, right, in February.
I was, and I was going to ask that question to Jay. Could I still second or let Andronika make a motion and I second? Is that still able to happen?
So I would prefer that only voting members, because you're kind of an ad hoc member, I would prefer that it would be members who actually constitute the committee. You certainly could, Chairman Chase. I would say the others who are joining just to listen in, the other board members who are joining just to listen in, of course, they would not be in a position to do that. But I will say that, if we were in a position where we did not have enough people to make such a motion, you would be in a position to do so. You are kind of an at-large member on all committees.
Got it. Thank you.
But I do believe today we have a quorum, so I would prefer that it would be two of the members who are a part of that particular committee.
All right. Thanks, Jade. Ms. Morris. Andronika? Did we lose her?
I'm back. I'm sorry. I was having internet problems, so I called in so I could hear everything. I can see everything, but you guys couldn't hear me.
Okay. Well, you're back now.
Yep, we see you and we see your avatar and we can hear you.
Okay.
We're still on the approval of the meeting minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You want to move approval?
Yeah. No. I move. I move adoption, approval of the minutes.
Thank you. It's just her and I, so there are any nays. So, well, I'll second that. It's her and I, so there aren't any nays. So the minutes are approved. Okay. And, all right. Programs Committee report. Programs Committee recommendation to seek full board approval for community fund donation to 6 homeless children's shelters. Board member Charles Brown. We'll hear from you all now. Mr. Brown, are you there? Hello.
Mr. Brown, unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, very
Yes,
good.
sir.
All right. Thank you very much. And I see Commissioner Morris. I see Commissioner Johnson, Damon Burns, and a photograph of myself. Okay. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity of making this presentation. I'm looking at the agenda. It's the program committee recommendation. I'm hoping that you make the recommendation to seek approval to for the Community Development Fund donation to 6 shelters. Does everybody have one of the agendas? Can you hear me?
Yes, everyone has the agenda.
All right. All right. Then let's look at the agenda, the last page on the agenda, which details out the use of the proceeds. The homeless community, of course, needs, and there are specific needs that hopefully they will use these proceeds if the recommendation moves forward of $10,000 to 6 shelters primarily, and I'll go through each of them. Bethel Colony House is in New Orleans East. It's in District, I'm looking at the board, I start at the top, is in District E. The director of that agency is Anisha Banks. I've had the opportunity with my fraternity to work with some of these shelters. The second shelter, as you see, is Hager's House, which is located on Canal Street 3401, which is also Grace United Church, is in District C or D. Baptist Friendship House, which is located on Elysian Fields Avenue, is in District D. And I guess the reason why we're pointing these districts out, I am, is because each of us as representative of councilmatic members represent these specific districts, and each shelter is in one of the districts. The other 2 are Metro Center, and Metro Center is not in a councilmatic district. It's actually, it houses persons from both Orleans Parish as well as Jefferson Parish. So I guess you would say that they would be representative of the at-large members. Am I missing one? Because I'm looking at the screen, and I guess I should go to my notes because I'm missing New Orleans Women and Children's Shelter, which is located on Liberty Street, which is in Councilmatic District B. I know them by heart. And I think, have I covered all of them? Oh, yeah, Salvation Army, which is located at Claiborne and Napoleon Avenue. I've got a suggestion only to the committee and also to our executive director and his staff, which has done a tremendous job of assembling this information. The distribution of the proceeds, I'm recommending that if the $10,000 is allocated, that I would say 333. $9,000 of that would go to the largest shelters because they house the largest amount of tenants and children. Specifically, the larger ones are Bethel Community Shelter. Secondly, would probably be the New Orleans Women's and Children's Shelter. And third would be the Salvation Army. If The donations could be at $3,000 to each of those agencies, or roughly $2,800 roughly, and $500 to the smaller shelters because they are smaller in number, or an equal distribution, whichever would be the recommendation of the staff as well as the committee. But $500 to both the Hager House, Baptist Friendship, which houses a smaller number of people, and as well as Jefferson, which is a transitional housing shelter, but it is also a domestic violence shelter. So that's primarily what I'd be more than happy to entertain some questions. I can tell you primarily that the proceeds will probably be used for needed essentials of those shelters, specifically household items. And I don't want to go to the specifics, but from bed towels on, cleaning supplies, paper products, brooms, mops, a lot of things that these shelters do need. And I would leave that more so to the staff, and they're working with those shelters to come up with the specifics on some of these items or essentials that these shelters would need. May I entertain some questions? That's primarily my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you. I have a couple of comments, I guess. So the recommendation that we have here is for 6 shelters, but you said 1 was missing. So that'll be a total of 7 shelters.
Let's see. Let me go through them.
Is that correct?
Okay.
All right.
There would be New Orleans Women and Children Shelter, large shelter. Bethel Colony House, large shelter. Salvation Army, large shelter. That's 3. And then we have
You have
Hager's
Hager's.
House, Hager's House, right? Baptist Friendship,
Right.
and Metro. That's 6. 5 are in councilmatic districts. 1 is not in a councilmatic district, and that is Metro Center, which is on Jefferson Highway.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So that would not be a total of $2,500 per shelter, but we're asking for a $10,000 allocation for these donations. So I agree with you on staff recommendation as to how to allocate. Total of 10,000.
Right, that would be the total, 10,000,
All right.
and not 2,500 each,
Yes.
which would be 1,250.
Right. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any question from
Yes, I have a couple of questions. So this is a retrench because I heard this mentioned before, but this is the first time I've heard it discussed. The logic here is almost a year ago, we approved the creation of the establishment of a community fund to create a rental assistance program in response to COVID. And the proposal here is to take $10,000 of whatever's left of that money to do this, and to provide support donations to these homeless shelters, right?
That's my understanding.
So my first question is how much money is left in the fund?
Damon, you want to take that?
Yeah, there's approximately a little over 50,000 remaining in the fund. We allocated about half of the fund to rental assistance, and then the other half to utility assistance. Well, the portion for rental assistance is almost exhausted, and the utility assistance has not been used, not nearly as much. So there is about 50,000 remaining, but we also need to have a conversation around whether or not we want to continue to support rental housing because we're almost out of the amount we had allocated. Yes.
And again, there's still there's still a huge need on this. I mean, I would also suggest that before we shift this money to anything, Total Community Action is the CAP agency that manages the LAHEAP program, the Low Income Housing Energy Assistance Payments Program. And given our, our pivot to particularly the green mortgage pieces that we've been talking about, there is, I would hate to see us abandon that, where that's part of what we're doing, where we're working, and that also could work in line with a part of the strategy that we have with the rental assistance program. Is it's talking to prospective clients with other programs, right? People who are struggling with their utilities. Particularly now, there may be a need to be their homeowner or a renter. There may be an opportunity there for a green innovation project to reduce the overall cost long term. And so I'm concerned about diverting this money from the need that we agreed to meet when we know that there is still that challenge out there. These are all fine organizations, but part of the reason we agreed to do this was that we were not gonna try to solve all of the problems caused by COVID, but we were going to work inside of our work, right, which is working with renters to turn them into homeowners and meeting utility costs, as we are talking about. We're the only green bank in the state, and that identifies that. So pivoting away from that to a very fine, worthy cause, right? I was just advocating for, the expansion of the homeless hotel program here in Louisiana across the state. So I get the need, but I don't get why Finance New Orleans should be pivoting away from its portfolio, where there still is need, to do work that is outside of our portfolio, despite the fact that, again, it's very worthy. These are all great shelters. And then I was also, Hagar's house is not in District C or D, it's in District B. So, and then there's that.
Okay, I was following you until the last comment. You said Hagar's house is not District B.
Yeah, 3401 Gray Street. The church is on the corner of Canal and Norman Francis,
Right.
and that is in District B.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the other thing. But that was just I'm questioning. I think that, if we wanted to do this, I see the value in distributing it all over the city, where there are a lot of homeless shelters, and so I get the value of that. But I'm questioning the underlying concept, and I don't think we're ready. I could see if there was a desire to help, and there wasn't a need, but there still is a need. And I think that there are other ways that the staff can address getting the utility assistance out by partnering with Total Community Action. And again, I think if TCA said to us, oh, no, don't worry about it, because there's another big chunk of utility funding coming, but I don't think that they're going to say that. I think they're going to say, oh, yes, we can help you spend $50,000 in utility assistance. Especially given, I think everybody's seen the articles after the polar vortex, and even before the polar vortex, we've had people are having a crisis with their utility bills.
Yes. I agree, and I won't be prescriptive about where staff, find the partnerships. But I will agree.
Right. Yes.
That we utilize the fund as it was created, right? And until we have exhausted our options and our, as Damon said, we're already out of rental assistance, so maybe re-upping reallocating a portion of the remaining funds to rental assistance, and then the remaining portion to utility assistance. And you all find the partnerships to make that happen. I would like to see us go down that path a little bit more. And let's maybe revisit this after we've had another 6 months or so of trying to exhaust this fund. If there are funds that are remaining, I'm fine with donations. Yeah. And that's my recommendation here. Any other discussion?
Can I second the chair's recommendation, or do we need to, or do we, yeah?
I think you can. Anjali.
Okay.
Yeah, she made a motion, so you can make a second. Mhm.
Okay. All right. All in favor, respond by saying aye.
Can we,
Aye.
Uh-huh.
Giselle,
There-
can you repeat it one more time just so we can make it clear
Yes.
for the record?
Sure. I am recommending that staff reallocate a portion of the remaining community fund dollars to rental assistance, utility assistance, seeking partnership in the city with housing. There was a second part to that also. Let's give ourselves a period of 6 months, and then we can revisit if we have remaining at that period funds to the shelters.
I lost you a little bit at the end. You said we will evaluate at the end of 6 months what's remaining and whether or not we can allocate to the homeless shelters.
Correct. For any remaining funds at the 6 month reevaluation period.
Got it.
And thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your presentation. I agree, these are worthy causes. I would like to make sure that we are using the fund for how it was intended. If there's anything left over, we will certainly consider the donation to the shelter. So thank you again, Mr. Brown, and thank you, staff.
Okay. Well, so just to make sure that I understand this, and I want to make sure that you understood that this is not, there are many, many shelters throughout the city. But these proceeds, $10,000, would go to homeless children. And looking at our
Understood.
budget, looking at our budget and not for utilities, but for essentials that these children need, what's the consideration? And the resources of $10,000 would come from the authority, and maybe we'll have to look at our budget and see whether or not we can find $10,000 for homeless children at some point.
That can certainly be a consideration. We want to ensure that we are remaining consistent with our mission. And so if it fits within our programmatic mission, I don't see why we could not consider.
Well, thank you for, and the committee for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
And to the committee members, staff is looking into ways that we can partner with homeless shelters and other workforce development organizations. So this was already a part of the strategy. It just was not a high priority at the moment because we were focused on getting programs off the ground.
Okay.
As we launch programs, we're working overnight to build relationships and partnerships with key organizations around the community. And if you look across the housing spectrum from A to Z, the homeless shelters are on that spectrum because that is a need for housing, and we've identified that. So we're going to keep working on solutions for this particular issue that Mr. Brown is bringing to the board.
Thank you so much, Damon. Thanks for your consideration and for your work area. And thanks, Damon, for connecting those points for us. We will certainly keep this at the forefront of our programmatic endeavors. So thanks a lot. Sorry, I was on mute. Program committee update.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Go ahead, Kelly. Go ahead. You get started.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you again. For those of you that I have not met, my name is Kelly Schmidt. I'm the new Director of Programs and Operations. So my update for this session regarding active programs, there's been minimal activity since our last report. There has not been any financial impact or changes on existing programs. Our heavy focus is on the new green mortgage program. We are full speed ahead with that program, outlining marketing campaign, training for lenders, realtors, and team, working on how we're going to educate the community and going live with the program. So we are actively working on that. It's all hands on deck for that program, and there'll be more to come regarding a timeline and dates sooner rather than later regarding that program. The Sustainable Developer Program, we're currently working on a new dashboard for presentation to be more visually easier to read. It was a request from Programs Committee and the Board of Trustees. We hope to have that ready for everyone in March, but currently we did take the recommendation and started scrubbing that pipeline report, cleaning it up, putting the data in that was requested by everyone. It now consists of about 46 developers with 10 active, totaling about 144 million, with 6 of those at full application status, 1 in underwriting committee status, and 3 are in the pre-application stage. We haven't had any new closings on that pilot program since the last time we met, and we are still working on cleaning up the remaining 30 accounts. We are literally reaching out to the developers, reintroducing the product to them, finding out exactly where they are in the phases of their development to see if we can still be help to them. So more to come from a reporting perspective on that program next quarter, and we will be providing that in March. As Damon stated, on our community support fund, the community is still demonstrating a need for that. We're still receiving applications. I will say it has somewhat slowed down from January to February, but the applications are still coming in. We have almost fully allocated those funds that are designated to rental, so I am happy to hear that we can reallocate some of the utilities funds into rental. We have some follow-up work to do on about 15 pending items with landlords that could potentially be payouts for rental assistance. And we're actually going to clean this up also and be a part of our dashboard presentation, so it's easier for you to read and get a full understanding of the trending within that program, so that we can in the future see how much the funds are moving and when the interest slows down. Mr. Brown's presentation was a good example of why we're doing that, but right now the community is still demonstrating a need for that rental assistance. Other than that, there's really no major updates in programs, like I said, other than moving headstrong with the Green Mortgage Program. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Any questions? Or representatives? Okay, I'm hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Giselle, I would like to add one more comment.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Andronika. Go ahead, please.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I've been having problems with muting. A little more clear. Sorry. Sorry. One quick question is, I just would, if I could get a summary if we get a written summary of everything that Kelly just talked about for notes, that would be helpful. That's all.
No problem.
Thank you.
But thank you.
Yeah, we're missing out
And
a little program report, but I know there's some transition there. So
yeah. And I'm sorry, I feel that
We'll give y'all-
am I echoing? Do I need to do something to stop echoing?
everybody's
I don't know
echoing. Yeah.
I would ask that if you're not speaking, to please put your Zoom on mute, because that drowns out all that background activity. Thank you.
Okay, Damon, you had something to add?
Yeah, just on top of the work that Kelly mentioned in program operations, there's a financing component to this to all of our programs. So we're working across the organization to develop financing strategies for each one of these programs because they're all different. For example, in the Green Mortgage Program, we eventually hope to get back to issuing tax-exempt bonds like we have over the last 40 years. The Sustainable Developer Program, that's pilots and tax-exempt bonds. And a new product we're working on, green infrastructure bonds. There are different levels of strategies for each, and we need some startup capital, some long-term capital. So we're actively talking to financial institutions and foundations and other government agencies about our funding needs for these impactful programs. So it's just important to note that alongside the development work of the underlying programs, we're trying to build large scalable financial models so that we can make these sustainable.
Thanks, Damon. Thanks for that. We will. We don't have it, but and I myself, I may have, but will we have a written report for the board, for programs?
Yes, we can deliver a written report of what we just discussed. We do have.
All right.
We still have the documents that are being converted into a dashboard form, so we can still share those, but also provide a summary write-up as requested.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other business?
Well, just one last item to discuss on the program, research and development.
Oh,
Giselle, we broke out the programs between active programs that we're spending most of our time on, and then programs in research and development where we're working behind the scenes, but we think they can be big for the organization. And of course, that's where Mashika, Ms. Baptiste, works and spends most of her time. So there isn't much to report at the moment, but we just wanted to let you know these are priorities for us. Figuring out how to finance renewable energy and green infrastructure falls under our revolving loan fund. And the Housing Innovation Fund is the Pathways, former Pathways program that we've been working to transition into something that we can generate more housing supply. So there's more to come there, but Ms. Baptiste, do you have anything to add or report out on research and development?
No, not at this time, but as Damon said, this will be something that we'll continue to update the committee on. We are looking at different ways that these funds, we can move forward with them. So we're putting things in place. We just wanted to put that on the agenda today so that everyone will understand as we move forward that we have active programs and then what's in the research and development. And then we'll report out on those as we continue to move forward.
And then one last thing before we close out so we can connect another dot for the board. Mashika, please talk a little bit about the Resilient New Orleans finance plan. I know we discussed it at the last board meeting, but that plan is close to final, and the Resilient New Orleans Revolving Loan Fund is a direct result of that finance plan, so that the plan that C40 developed for us will be marketed alongside our strategic plan. So there's some really noteworthy work going on in that space.
Correct. So we, last week we did meet with our working group to put out the final plan and to get feedback on that. We're moving forward to launch that next month. So more on that. And then that group will work together monthly and then report out quarterly on all the pipeline items that are coming from that finance framework. So again, we'll continue to report out to the committee on all the things that we're working on that has come out of that Resilient New Orleans framework as we continue to work with our working group on a monthly basis.
Thank you, Mashika. All right. And I think you all sent a recorded meeting, the working group. If you have time, and we'll get it to look at.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other business?
Not from the staff, thank you.
Do we have public comment? Naj or Elizabeth?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Before we, I do want to give our Mr. Chase a moment to think as he attended programs, shifting his role from member to ad hoc.
Well, thank you.
You don't have to. I'm going to give you the opportunity.
I was trying to find that mute button, but I'm honored to continue to be able to sit on this committee. You know, Damon and Mashika and the rest have went over programs that's getting ready to get in play. And I know on the last board meeting, Ms. Morris talked about that dashboard that'll keep us in line or keep staff accountable on how we're looking in developing these different programs and how they're continued to further our mission and our outreach in the community. So I'm excited to be able to sit on it and participate in all the committees and actually see our mission continue to move forward, which y'all have put in place. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We will continue doing the work. If there's anything else, I'll entertain a motion. Angelica, find that mute button.
All right, guys, I got you. Second.
All right. This is turn.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you, guys. Bye.
Have a good day.